Zarazen approached and offered a hand, well, a scaled limb, to Mark. "Move like this," she said, demonstrating a slow, deliberate sway. Mark followed her lead, gradually finding a rhythm. Emily joined in with another Solari partner, laughing as they tried new steps. By the end of the night, the dance floor was a lively mix of Solari and human styles, blending into something uniquely their own. The music and movement had done more than entertain, it had brought them closer together. As the final notes faded and the floating lights dimmed, Zarazen approached Emily and Mark. "This was more than a gala. It was understanding. You have shown us a part of your world, and we have shared ours. For this, we are grateful." Mark shook her hand. "Thank you for including us. I've never felt so connected to another species before." Emily added, "This is what we came here for, to truly understand each other." Walking back to their quarters under the glow of the planet's twin moons, Emily and Mark reflected on the night. "That was unexpected," Mark said. "In the best way," Emily agreed. Their bond with the Solari had grown stronger. The Gala of Galaxies wasn't just a gathering, it was a turning point. And they both knew their journey had only just begun. Chapter 6. The Rumor Mill. Mark leaned against the railing of the Solari observation platform, gazing out at the sprawling alien city. Solari architecture was mesmerizing. Organic curves, living structures that changed colors as the sunlight shifted. But Mark wasn't focused on the beauty of the city today. He could feel the weight of dozens of eyes on him, whispers from Solari and humans alike echoing faintly in the corridors behind him. "Mark," Emily called as she approached, her boots tapping lightly on the polished stone floor. "There's something you should know." Mark turned to her. "I already know, I heard them this morning. Why are the humans spending so much time with Zarazen? What's going on between them?" Emily sighed, leaning next to him. "You know how it is. People see something they don't understand, and their first reaction is suspicion." He shook his head. "I thought we were making progress. The whole point of coming here was to build relationships, but now it's like half the team's more interested in gossip than science." Zarazen arrived quietly, her smooth steps making no sound on the platform. "You speak of the rumors," she stated rather than asked, her tone calm but her gaze sharp. "Yeah, we're talking about it," Mark admitted. "Seems like a lot of people can't get their heads around a human and a Solari working closely together without it meaning something else." Zarazen crossed her arms, her long tail flicking once. "Solari are not without curiosity. When something new occurs, it sparks conversation. But these words, do they affect your work? Your purpose here?" "They're a distraction," Emily replied. "And it's frustrating. We're here to learn from each other, not defend ourselves against baseless speculation." Mark nodded. "It's hard to focus when you know people are questioning your motives." Zarazen tilted her head slightly. "Then we must address this, not with words, but with action." "What do you have in mind?" Emily asked, intrigued. "Let us present our findings together," Zarazen said. "Show them what we have accomplished. If they see the results of our collaboration, their whispers will fade." Emily glanced at Mark, then back to Zarazen. "That could work. A joint presentation, outlining the progress we've made, cultural insights, technological exchanges. Something they can't ignore." Mark pushed himself off the railing. "I like it. If we can prove that our partnership is about mutual understanding and progress, not whatever they think it is, maybe the rumors will die down." Zarazen nodded. "We will do it together. Let the results speak for themselves." The three of them spent the next few days preparing an in-depth presentation. They worked late into the night, their conversations ranging from technical details to cultural observations. Each contributed their own perspective. Mark's focus on biology and ecology, Emily's understanding of human culture and communication, and Zarazen's knowledge of Solari society. During one of those late sessions, as they arranged holographic projections in a Solari conference room, Mark paused and glanced at Zarazen. "You know, when we first got here, I never thought we'd end up working so closely. It's different, but in a good way." Zarazen tilted her head, her expression thoughtful. And I never thought a human could be as curious and determined as you. Different, indeed. Yet that is why we learn. Emily, sorting through data on her tablet, looked up and grinned. What you're saying is, you didn't think we'd grow on you. Mark groaned. No puns right now. We're trying to be professional. She shrugged, still smiling. Just saying we're making progress. When the day of the presentation arrived, the room was packed. Solari of various castes and humans from different disciplines crowded into the hall, their attention focused on the trio standing at the front. Zarazen began the session, her voice steady and clear. We have spent weeks exchanging knowledge, sharing culture, and collaborating on ideas. Today, we show you what has come of that. Mark took the lead next, showcasing their joint study of Solari agriculture and its implications for Earth's own crop development. Emily followed, presenting a detailed analysis of Solari communication methods and how they could revolutionize human translation technology. The audience listened intently, murmuring in approval as the presentation unfolded. By the time they concluded, even the most skeptical attendees seemed impressed. As the crowd dispersed, Emily turned to Zarazen and Mark. I think that did it. Even the rumor mongers seemed a little quieter during that. Zarazen gave a small, satisfied nod. Actions speak louder than whispers. They will think twice before doubting our purpose now. Mark smiled. Feels good to set the record straight. Now we can get back to what really matters, working together. The three of them stood for a moment, feeling the shift in the air. The rumors hadn't disappeared entirely, but they had lost their power. What remained was a growing respect for what humans and Solari could achieve together. Chapter 7, The Discovery. The morning air on the Solari planet carried a crisp chill, and Mark was grateful for the light jacket he had grabbed before heading out. He followed Emily and Zarazen down the narrow path carved into the hillside. Their guide, a young Solari named Kathur, who had been assigned to assist them on their latest excursion. This way, Kathur said, gesturing with his tail toward a cave opening framed by luminescent moss. You said you wanted to explore areas of cultural significance. Yes? Exactly, Mark replied. We're looking for anything that might show how your people interacted with other species in the past. Emily added, historical records, artifacts. Anything that helps us understand your history more fully. Kathur nodded and led them into the cave. The interior was stunning. Streaks of glowing minerals ran through the stone, and strange carvings adorned the walls. Mark shone a small flashlight on one of the patterns. These look familiar, he said, leaning closer. Zarazen, have you seen symbols like this before? Zarazen examined the wall, her scaled hand brushing against the stone. These are old, very old, not part of any modern Solari script. They seem connected to something before our recorded history. Emily snapped a picture with her portable scanner. If these are pre-recorded history, they might be key to understanding early Solari culture. Maybe even a link to how your society developed. Kathur hesitated. Many say these caves are sacred. Few come here anymore. What purpose do they serve now? Mark turned to him. If we can learn more about these carvings, they could shed light on early contact, possibly with species other than your own. As the group moved deeper into the cave, they found more carvings, each more intricate than the last. Some depicted creatures that looked like early Solari, but others showed beings that bore striking resemblances to humans. Long limbs, upright postures, rounded heads. Emily's scanner beeped as it logged each discovery. This is unbelievable, she said, adjusting the scanner's settings. Zarazen, do you think it's possible that your ancestors met humans or a human-like species long ago? Zarazen's gaze lingered on a particularly detailed carving. It was always a legend, stories of beings from the sky who walked with us, but no proof. If this is real, she trailed off as if reluctant to finish the thought. Mark studied her expression. It would change everything, wouldn't it? The way we see our own history, the way we view each other. Kathur spoke up. Legends say the sky beings shared knowledge, then vanished. Perhaps they are the reason Solari advanced as we did. Emily scanned another section. We'll need more data, but these carvings suggest that contact wasn't just a myth. It was real, and it might explain why our societies share some similarities. Mark knelt near a carved figure that appeared to hold a tool, a design that looked eerily like early human implements. If these sky beings were human or something close to it, then that means interspecies interactions started long before we ever imagined. Zarazen turned to them, her voice steady. If we confirm this connection, it is not just history we uncover. It is our shared origin, our link. The group spent hours documenting the cave. As the day wore on, the air grew heavy with the implications of their discovery. They had come here to learn about Solari culture, but they might have stumbled upon a story that tied their species together in ways no one had ever anticipated. When they finally emerged from the cave, the suns were setting, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. Mark looked back at the entrance. This changes everything, doesn't it? Emily nodded. If what we found is authentic, it means humans and Solari have been connected far longer than anyone thought. It's not just about understanding each other now. It's about understanding where we came from. Zarazen stood beside them, the glow of the cave still reflecting faintly off her scales. We will share this, together, not as two species but as one discovery, one truth. As the group began their journey back to the city, their thoughts turned not to the challenges of the present, but to the mysteries of the past, and the knowledge that those mysteries might just bring them closer than they had ever imagined. Chapter 8: New Beginnings. The Solari's main conference hall was packed, the air buzzing with anticipation. Humans and Solari alike filled the space, their low conversations weaving together into a quiet hum of shared curiosity. Dr. Mark Jensen stood near the front, adjusting the holo display while Emily checked the sound system. Zarazen was reviewing the final slides on her datapad, her emerald scales shimmering faintly under the room's ambient light. Last chance to back out, Mark said with a grin, nudging Emily. She shot him a look. Not a chance. We've worked too hard for this moment. Zarazen glanced up, a calm confidence in her gaze. Together, we present the truth of what we have found. It is not our task alone. It belongs to all who seek understanding. The room quieted as Zarazen stepped to the podium, her presence commanding yet approachable. She began to speak, her voice steady and deliberate. We have gathered here not to divide what is Solari and what is human, but to reveal what connects us. Mark followed, taking over seamlessly. Our discovery in the ancient caves has given us a glimpse into the past, one that suggests our two species were not always strangers. We've uncovered evidence that long before recorded history, a human-like species interacted with the early Solari. He gestured to the holo display, which came to life with images of carvings and artifacts. These carvings show not just proximity, but exchange, tools, symbols, and methods that shaped Solari society. They hint that our ancestors may have shared more than just space. They may have shared knowledge. Emily stepped forward next, her voice clear and purposeful. While the historical implications are significant, what truly matters is what we do with this knowledge. It's not just about rewriting history books. It's about what happens next. We now have a chance to build on that ancient connection, to work together toward something greater. The audience watched intently, many nodding in agreement. Even those who had initially doubted their findings seemed captivated. Zarazen concluded the presentation. Our shared history shows that neither of us reached our current understanding alone. Collaboration is not new. It is ancient, and today we choose to embrace it once again. As the audience erupted into applause, Mark felt a weight lift off his shoulders. The days of whispers and doubt seemed a distant memory now. Emily squeezed his arm lightly, a small gesture of shared triumph. After the presentation, people crowded around the trio, eager to ask questions and offer congratulations. A Solari scholar approached Mark, extending a hand. You and your team have opened a path we never knew existed. This discovery, it will change how we teach our young, how we view our own identity. Mark shook his hand warmly. It's something we uncovered together. This is as much your achievement as it is ours. Another Solari turned to Zarazen. Do you believe this marks a new era for our species? For how we interact with humans? Zarazen's tail flicked thoughtfully. If we choose to see it that way, yes. But it is not the era that defines us. It is the actions we take. Emily chimed in. And today is the first step. Now we have a foundation. It's up to us to keep building on it. The event stretched into the evening, filled with vibrant discussions and ideas for future collaborations. Solari and human scientists exchanged contact information, making plans for joint projects. Cultural leaders discussed ways to blend traditions. Even the skeptics found themselves drawn into the momentum of the moment. As the crowd finally began to thin, Mark, Emily, and Zarazen found a quiet corner to reflect. Well, I think we can call that a success, Mark said, his tone light but sincere. Emily nodded. Absolutely. People are actually excited about what comes next. That's not something you see every day. Zarazen regarded them both. What comes next is crucial. It is not the discovery itself that matters most. It is how we carry it forward. Mark leaned back against the wall, his expression thoughtful. You're right. The discovery was just the beginning. Now we have to prove that we can actually work together, keep that connection alive. Emily crossed her arms, smiling slightly. And considering everything we've been through, I'd say we're off to a pretty good start. Zarazen tilted her head in agreement. The work continues. Together. They left the conference hall as the twin moons rose overhead, their light casting long shadows over the city. The path ahead was still uncertain, but one thing was clear. They weren't walking it alone. Together, Human and Solari, they had started something that could shape the future, not just for their species, but for the larger galaxy around them. Dr. Emily Roslin and her colleague, Dr. Mark Jensen, stepped off their shuttle onto the rocky terrain of an uncharted planet in the Epsilon sector. The atmosphere buzzed with anticipation. Their mission was to explore and document new life forms, but nothing could have prepared them for the encounter that awaited. Mark, make sure the translators are on and functioning. We can't afford a communication breakdown, Emily instructed as they adjusted their equipment. Already on it, Emily. You know, I still can't believe we're the first humans to set foot here, Mark replied, his voice a mix of excitement and nerves. As they trekked through the dense alien foliage, a sudden rustle stopped them in their tracks. From behind a massive, leafy plant, emerged creatures unlike any they had ever seen. The beings, which they would later learn were called the Solari, were tall and covered in shimmering scales, with eyes that reflected a curious intelligence. Stay calm, Emily whispered to Mark. Let me do the talking. A Solari stepped forward, towering over the humans. Its voice hissed through the translator. Why come you here? Emily took a deep breath, showing her open palms. We come in peace. We are explorers, seeking to learn about new worlds and share knowledge. Mark nodded in support, watching the Solari's reactions closely. The Solari chattered among themselves, their tones clicking and whirring before another. Evidently a leader, addressed Emily. Many cycles, no contact with outsiders. Why trust you? Mark interjected. We understand your concern. We're here to prove that trust can be built. We offer information about our world in exchange for knowledge about yours. The leader flicked its tail, a sign they would soon understand as contemplation. After a moment, it gestured towards the largest structure visible through the thick trees. Come, talk we will. As they followed the Solari into their community, Emily and Mark were struck by the sophistication of the architecture and the harmony with which the Solari seemed to live with their environment. Inside a grand hall, they were greeted by Zarazen, a Solari scholar. I am Zarazen. I speak for our kind today. Curious we are about your kind. Emily responded, and we are grateful for the chance to learn from you, Zarazen. This is Dr. Mark Jensen, my colleague. Zarazen nodded at Mark. Your kind, different looks. Explain. Mark laughed gently. Humans vary in appearance, much like I notice some of you have different scale patterns. It's all natural for us. The conversation continued, with both parties eagerly exchanging basic information about their species. Emily and Mark described human society, our planet's environment, and our technology. Zarazen listened intently, then shared insights into Solari culture, their advancements in bioengineering, and their deep respect for life, which prohibited them from engaging in warfare. As the meeting drew to a close, Zarazen proposed a plan that would hopefully benefit both their peoples. Perhaps a cultural exchange might be arranged. Learning from each other could bring much benefit. Emily smiled, pleased with the positive outcome of their first encounter. We'd be honored. Let's arrange for more discussions like this one. Mark added, there's so much we can learn from each other. We look forward to a fruitful relationship. As they left the hall, Emily felt a surge of excitement. This was the beginning of something new, a bridge between worlds that had never before communicated. The universe seemed a little smaller, a little friendlier. Chapter 2. Cultural Exchange. Following their initial successful meeting, Dr. Emily Roslin and Dr. Mark Jensen, accompanied by Zarazen, embarked on a structured cultural exchange program. The first session was held in a large, sunlit room inside the Solari complex, with devices ready to record and translate each interaction for future study. Today, we'll begin with the basics of human anatomy. Emily began, setting up a holographic display. Understanding our physical forms will provide a solid foundation for medical and cultural exchanges. Mark chimed in, guiding Zarazen through the display. Humans have various internal organs that are vital for our survival. Here you can see the heart, lungs, and the brain, which are critical for our functions. Zarazen, fascinated, pointed at the hologram. Your structure is supportive, encased. Our bodies more fluid, less rigid. How manage you with such fragility? It's a common misconception that rigidity implies fragility, Mark explained. Our skeletal system actually provides strong support and protection for our organs. It's different but effective. The discussion shifted as Zarazen introduced them to Solari physiology. Our bodies, adapt to environments dynamically, can change as needed. Show you I will. A Solari assistant stepped forward, its skin color shifting in response to temperature changes administered by a device. Observe. Adaptation for survival. That's remarkable, Emily remarked. Our bodies can't do that. We use tools and clothing to adapt. The session progressed with mutual fascination. They discussed not just biology but also touched on cultural practices related to health and wellness in their respective societies. Now, let us speak of our diets, Zarazen suggested. Much can be learned from what sustains us. Mark led this part, sharing images and descriptions of typical human foods. We have a wide variety of diets around our planet. These are some staple foods like rice, wheat, and corn. Zarazen introduced them to Solari nutrition. We harness energy from our sun, supplemented by biominerals in our soil. Direct, efficient. The discussion revealed the profound differences in their biological needs, sparking ideas for agricultural collaboration. As the session neared its end, a younger Solari approached cautiously. Humans, curious, I am. Music, have you? Sounds for joy, for sorrow. Absolutely, Emily responded, delighted by the question. Music is a universal language among humans. Perhaps we could organize a session to share some. Mark nodded enthusiastically. I'll set up something. Music might be the perfect bridge between our cultures. Zarazen agreed. A session on Solari harmonics arranged it will be. Learn we shall, from each other's sounds. The day concluded with plans for further exchanges, including technology, art, and entertainment. Both teams were eager to delve deeper into each other's worlds, finding joy and intrigue in their differences and similarities. As they walked back to their quarters, Mark reflected aloud. Today was incredible. It's amazing how different we are. Yet there's so much we can share and appreciate. Emily nodded, her mind racing with possibilities. This is just the beginning, Mark. Think about the potential here, not just for science, but for real understanding. Their conversation faded into the evening, both humans filled with a sense of accomplishment and anticipation for the days to come. The path they were on was not just about exploration. It was about connection, and each step brought them closer to a shared understanding. Chapter 3, Building Trust. Dr. Emily Roslin and Dr. Mark Jensen joined Zarazan early the next morning for what was scheduled to be a comprehensive tour of the Solari habitat. The air was crisp, and the light from the planet's twin suns cast a warm glow over the lush landscape. "Today, you see our world as we live it," Zarazan announced as they stepped out into the vibrant wilderness surrounding the Solari community. Mark, ever the inquisitive biologist, was immediately drawn to the unusual flora. "These plants, they're nothing like we have on Earth. What's this one called?" he asked, pointing to a towering fern-like tree with luminescent leaves. "That we call Coelithra. It absorbs sunlight, converting it to chemical energy which we use in various ways," explained Zarazan, plucking a leaf and handing it to Mark. "Photosynthesis, but your plants seem to do it more efficiently," Emily noted, examining the leaf structure through a portable scanner. As they moved deeper into the habitat, a group of Solari children scampered past, their laughter echoing through the air. One youngling, more curious than cautious, paused to watch the humans. "Do your young learn about other worlds?" Mark asked, crouching down to be at eye level with the child. Zarazan replied, "They do. We believe knowledge of the cosmos is essential from an early age. Would you share something of your world with them?" Mark grinned and pulled out a small device from his pack, projecting images of Earth's animals. The children gathered around, mesmerized by pictures of elephants and tigers. "Animals, like us but different," one child piped up, his scales shimmering with excitement. "Yes, each adapted to its environment," Mark explained, scrolling through more images. Their tour continued to a Solari agricultural zone, where they observed intricate farming techniques that harmonized with the native ecology. Zarazan introduced them to a farmer who managed the crops. "This our way of nurturing life," the farmer explained as he showed them a plot of soil enriched with natural bioluminescent fungi. "Enhances growth." "Bioluminescence? We use similar technology in deep-sea exploration but haven't applied it to agriculture," Emily remarked, intrigued by the application. The discussion turned technical, with Mark and Emily asking detailed questions about crop cycles and yield management. The Solari were more than willing to share their knowledge, appreciating the genuine interest shown by their guests. As the suns began to set, Zarazan led them to a large community center where preparations for an evening meal were underway. The scent of exotic spices filled the air, and Solari musicians started to play soothing, harmonic tunes. "You must join us for dinner," Zarazan insisted. "Food, music, conversation. It binds us." Over dinner, Emily and Mark sampled a variety of Solari dishes, each more intriguing than the last. They discussed everything from culinary tastes to the philosophical underpinnings of Solari society. "This is a remarkable way to live," Emily said, her voice full of admiration. "It's about balance and respect for all life," Zarazan explained. "We strive to live without causing harm, to grow with our planet, not just on it." Mark nodded thoughtfully. "There's a lesson in that for us humans. We've often taken more than we give back to our planet." As the meal ended, and they walked back under the stars, the conversation shifted to the personal. "Seeing your world, understanding your philosophy, it changes how I see my own," Mark confessed. Emily agreed. "There's so much we can learn from you, Zarazan. I hope our people can embrace some of your practices." Zarazan smiled. "And we yours. This exchange, it is just the beginning." "Yes. Yes," both humans said in unison, their minds alive with the possibilities that lay ahead. They had started the day as visitors and ended it feeling a part of something much greater. The trust they had built today was the foundation for a lasting friendship. Chapter 4, Misunderstandings. The morning air on the Solari homeworld carried a gentle warmth, and Dr. Mark Jensen stretched as he stepped out of his quarters, blinking at the rising twin suns. He spotted Dr. Emily Roslin already outside, adjusting her research equipment. "You're up early," Mark said, joining her. Emily glanced at him. "Zarazan invited us to visit one of their natural hot springs today. Thought it'd be good to study their water systems and maybe get a bit of relaxation while we're at it." Mark grinned. "A diplomatic spa day? I'm in." A short while later, They met Zarazen at the edge of a rocky valley where steam rose from turquoise pools. Other Solari were already bathing, their sleek forms blending naturally with the surroundings. The pools weren't just for leisure. They held minerals crucial to Solari health, and visiting them was an essential ritual. Many come here for healing, Zarazen explained, leading them toward a quieter section. You should experience it. Emily and Mark exchanged glances. Why not? Mark said, pulling off his gear and stepping cautiously into the water. The heat seeped into his muscles immediately, and he sighed. Okay, this might be the best part of our visit so far. Emily chuckled and settled into the water as well. The Solari, who normally wore light garments in public, had no real concept of modesty in these settings, and the humans had to adjust to the casual attitude. Nearby, a group of Solari younglings played in the shallows. One of them, a curious child with shimmering green scales, stared at Mark, then pointed at him with wide eyes. That human has a snake, the child called out. Mark froze mid-relaxation. Emily nearly choked on a laugh. Zarazen, puzzled, turned toward the child. A snake? Where? The youngling jabbed a finger toward Mark's lower half, his voice filled with alarm and fascination. It moves. Why does it move? Silence fell across the spring as several Solari turned to stare. Mark's face went red. Oh, come on, he muttered, shifting deeper into the water. Emily, biting her lip to suppress laughter, cleared her throat. Zarazen, I think we need to explain some biological differences. Zarazen tilted her head, her eyes narrowing. Is it an external parasite? Mark groaned. No, it's a part of human anatomy. The child, still unconvinced, looked between the adults. But why does it move on its own? Do humans control it? Emily rubbed her temples. It doesn't exactly work like that. Zarazen, realizing this was a serious discussion, nodded. Anatomy differences. This is a learning moment. She turned to the gathered Solari. Humans are structured differently. This is natural to them. A few murmurs spread among the onlookers, but curiosity soon replaced confusion. Fascinating, another Solari muttered. So, it has a function beyond external presence? Mark exhaled sharply. I'm going to die of embarrassment. Emily, trying to keep things professional, added, just as Solari have adaptations suited to their environment, humans have their own biological functions. It's normal for us, just like your features are normal for you. Zarazen observed the reactions of the gathered Solari, then nodded. Then there is no reason for concern. This is simply how humans are. The child, still watching Mark, finally nodded. Okay, no snake then, just human stuff. Mark buried his face in his hands. This might be the strangest conversation of my life. Emily patted his shoulder. On the bright side, you've now contributed to interspecies education in ways you never expected. Zarazen, entirely serious, turned to them. You should present a full lecture on this topic later. Mark groaned again. I'm never living this down, am I? Emily just laughed. The situation lightened, and before long, the Solari resumed their activities. The child, still curious but no longer alarmed, went back to splashing in the water. Later, as the three of them walked back to the research station, Mark shook his head. You know, I was hoping for a day of relaxation. Instead, I got a crash course in interspecies embarrassment. Emily smirked. It's a good thing you're a scientist. Think of it as fieldwork. Zarazen, ever the scholar, looked at him. You handled it well. Learning happens in unexpected ways. Mark sighed. Yeah, I guess. But if we ever write a report on this, I'm vetoing the title, The Case of the Human Snake. Emily burst into laughter, and even Zarazen allowed herself a brief, amused flick of her tail. Despite the awkwardness, the experience had strengthened their connection. It was another step toward understanding. Sometimes humorous, sometimes strange, but always pushing the boundaries of what it meant to bridge two worlds. Chapter 5: The Gala of Galaxies. The Gala of Galaxies was unlike any gathering Mark and Emily had ever attended. The Solari Hall, adorned with shimmering bioluminescent plants and floating orbs of soft, colorful light, was a feast for the senses. The entire space seemed alive, pulsating gently in harmony with the low, rhythmic tones of Solari music. "Okay, this is incredible," Mark murmured as they stepped into the main chamber. Emily nodded, her eyes scanning the crowd. "It's like stepping into another world." "Well, I guess we literally have." Zarazen approached them, her emerald scales catching the light. "You made it. We are pleased to have our human guests." Mark offered a friendly grin. "Wouldn't miss it for the universe." Zarazen gestured toward a Solari musician playing a stringed instrument that seemed to hum and glow with each pluck. "Music. It connects us beyond words. Have you brought your own?" Emily glanced at Mark. "You brought that holo projector, right?" Mark nodded and reached into his pack. A few taps on the device, and soft, melodic piano music began to fill the air. The Solari around them turned their heads, their attention captivated. Zarazen tilted her head, listening intently. "It is calm yet deep. Do all humans produce such sound?" Mark chuckled. "I wish. Only some have the skill. This is a recording, but it's one of our most cherished forms of expression." A group of Solari musicians approached, gesturing to the holo projector. They began to improvise, blending the human piano with their own harmonic tones. The result was mesmerizing, a fusion of Earth and Solari styles that filled the hall with something entirely new. This is amazing," Emily whispered. "They're creating something with us." Mark leaned closer to her. "I think we just made musical history." The atmosphere grew more lively as the evening progressed. Solari and humans mingled, sharing stories of their worlds. Drinks were poured, both Earth and Solari beverages, and the conversations turned more personal. Mark found himself talking with a Solari craftsman who admired human tools. "You have refined metals to such precision. We shape our materials biologically. Perhaps we could combine our methods." "I'd love to try," Mark said enthusiastically. "We've got so much to learn from each other." Meanwhile, Emily spoke with Zarazen about cultural rituals. "Back home, we have traditions like this, gatherings with music and dancing, but nothing quite like this scale." Zarazen regarded her thoughtfully. "Perhaps we shall dance together, to see how our movements align." Emily laughed softly. "I'm not much of a dancer, but I'll try." Zarazen called over Mark, who had just finished a conversation. "Come, humans and Solari will dance together this night." Mark raised an eyebrow. "Dancing, huh? Well, let's see if we can keep up." The Solari musicians picked up the tempo, playing a blend of their own melodies and the human-inspired tunes they had just learned. A wide, open space in the hall became a dance floor. Solari swayed gracefully, their movements fluid and serpentine. Mark and Emily stepped in, their motions more rigid by comparison. "You call that dancing?" Emily teased Mark. "Hey, I'm doing my best here." Mark shot back, trying to match the Solari's elegance. A few Solari laughed, an airy, hissing sound, and mimicked the human's movements. Mark noticed one Solari imitating his awkward steps and couldn't help but laugh himself. All right, I get it. We look ridiculous," he said, smiling.